Week 11 of the fantasy football season. He is tight end starts to sit every matchup this week. First matchup, Tennessee Titans at the Green Bay Packers. So Austin Hooper, best game of the season for him last week. But that's not really saying much. He's not a guy you can trust week in and week out. You got to see a few more weeks of production out of Austin Hooper. And this Titan team, they were playing from behind in that ball game. And that's why obviously they threw the football a lot. But this week, if they establish the run early and often with Derrick Henry, I don't see them throwing the football much. And Austin Hooper is not a tight end that's going to be startable this week, so he's a sit. And Robert Tonyan, the last few weeks, we really haven't seen much out of him in this passing game. And right now, this passing game, it's going in a different direction for this Packer team. They're a run-first type of team, working off of play action and trying to get the deep ball to Christian Watson or Alan Lazard in the middle of the field. So right now, Robert Tonyan, the last month of the season, really hasn't been a factor. And he's a sit this week now to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Indianapolis Colts. So Dallas Goedert, he's going to be out for a while now with his injury, which is unfortunate after taking a big hit on Monday Night Football versus the Washington Commanders. So right here, Dallas Goedert, he's been a good tight end this season, a top 5 guy. And now the next man up for this Eagle team, Grant Calcaterra or Jake Stoll. And obviously right now they're not going to have fantasy value, but it wouldn't surprise me to see any of these guys have some fantasy value with a good quarterback like Jalen Hurts, who likes targeting the tight end and getting them the football. But right now this week, both of them are sits, and we'll see who emerges as a target at all or does anything at all in this ball game. Now to the Indianapolis Colts side of things, Jelani Woods and Mo Cox, each of them had one good game this season, but now Kylan Granson has come on in this ball game with 9.70 fantasy points in last week's matchup versus the Vegas Raiders. But he's another guy you just got to take a wait-and-see approach, and not a guy I'm going to throw into my starting lineup right away. So this week here, I have him as a sit as Granson. If he could put another couple games together, then possibly I would say he's a starter. But right now, he's the 4th or 5th option in that cold offense. Now to the Los Angeles Chargers at the New Orleans Saints. Tyler Higbee had a couple bad weeks, but this week here, he came in with a good ball game in Week 10 versus the Cardinals, and he had over 15 fantasy points. And right now with Cooper Kupp out, there's going to be more targets going Tyler Higbee's way. And the receivers over there, Van Jefferson, Robinson, and Skoranek, really haven't done much. So Tyler Higbee might actually be the number 1 target in this offense right now. And he's a start with Wolford, a quarterback, at Stafford. You got to throw him out there. Now to the Saints side of things, JUWUAN Johnson, 4 touchdowns in his last 4 ball games. So right now, he's a guy that garners a start this week, especially with the injuries to Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. Fantasy owners are going to need a tight end. JUWUAN Johnson could be that guy that could get him 30, 40 yards and find the end zone. Obviously, you're not going to bank on him scoring a touchdown each and every week here, but so far he's been doing that over the last month. Now the Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons. So right here, Cole Kmet over the last 2 games has 4 touchdowns. And he's a guy you got to throw in the starting lineup. And Justin Fields are really getting things going for this Bears offense. They're driving the football up and down the field. Cole Kmet's been a big part of it, and the running of Justin Fields. And this week here, he could be a top 5, top 8 option once my rankings come out. So he's a start this week after 2 monster performances. Now to the Falcons side of things, Kyle Pitts, he just hasn't gotten the job done this season. Only 1 or 2 good fantasy games, and we're already in week 11 of the fantasy football season. Right here, he was drafted as a 3rd, 4th rounder as Kyle Pitts, and this week he'll probably crack my top 12, but I'm not going to think he's going to do much of anything once again as Pitts. It's just been the thing going on this season, and it's not always his fault. Marcus Mariota's had trouble getting the ball to his playmakers all season long, so I got him as a borderline option. Now to the Commanders at the Texans, not much going on in this one. Logan Thomas, a couple seasons ago, was good at the tight end position, but this year not really doing anything. He's a sit. And to the Texans side of things, O.J. Howard had a big pop game in Week 1, and now Jordan Akins has been playing most of the snaps, but he hasn't really done anything as well, and he's a sit this week. Most of these guys available in 100% of fantasy leagues. Now to the New York Jets at the New England Patriots. Tyler Conklin this season, a couple decent ball games, and a few weeks ago, a monster ball game with over 20 fantasy points with Zach Wilson. But now Conklin, 2 weeks ago, he didn't do much. Then last week had the bye week. And right here, I still can't trust Conklin. I got to see more out of him with Zach Wilson before I put him as a starter or even a borderline option. So he's a sit for me this week now. Hunter Henry had a couple decent games this season, but that was with Bailey Zapp at quarterback. Now Mac Jones, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, is back as the starter here for this New England Patriot team. And this week here, I don't think we're going to see much, obviously, out of Hunter Henry at the tight end position. I definitely could be wrong, but this team, they like running the football, and Jacoby Myers has become a favorite target of Mac Jones. So this week, I got Henry as a sit. Now to the Lions at the New York Giants. Brock Wright last week found the end zone, but besides that, really didn't do much. And James Mitchell a couple weeks ago found the end zone as well since the TJ Hockenson trade. Both these guys filling in and trying to do their best, but right now this week, they're not guys really on the fantasy radar. There was a lot of guys on the waiver wire this week I'd rather have had than these guys. So they are sitting out to the Giants side of things. Luke Gager, I know, scored a touchdown last week, but Dana Hudson was still the tight end on the field the majority of the time, and he didn't do much in that ball game with Hudson. I know Daniel Jones like targeting the tight end, but we got to see it out of Hudson before I have confidence putting him as even a borderline option. So this week, he's a sit even in the deepest of leagues as well. Now to the Panthers at the Baltimore Ravens. So bad news for this Panther offense. Baker Mayfield back as the starting quarterback this week, and nothing was going on at all for this offense. Maybe Robbie Anderson was doing a few things before he got traded to the Arizona Cardinals. And now Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas, I don't expect much out of them. I know Tremble's got a couple touchdowns on the season, but besides that, we haven't seen anything out of him. So he's a sit, and Ian Thomas pretty much lost in the shuffle and a blocking tight end at this point. So he's a sit as well. And Mark Andrews, as long as he's 100% healthy, this guy, you're going to expect 20, 30 fantasy points this week if he plays. And right now, Harbaugh said there's a good chance Andrews is going to play. If he don't play, not mentioned on the list, Isaiah Likely, then he would be a guy I would throw in your starting lineup. Now to the Browns at the Bills, and David Njoku, he's been out the last few weeks with a high ankle sprain, but if he does play in this ball game, I definitely have him as a starter, is David Njoku. He's a good piece in this offense. He works the middle of the field, he's athletic, and he's a matchup problem for safeties or linebackers, whatever the opposing defense is put on him. So if Njoku's back in this ball game, and he's available on some waiver wires as well, still here at time of recording this video. He's a guy I would start. Harrison Bryant, I know he found the end zone last week, but not much volume or targets going his way, so he's a sit even if Njoku is out once again. And out to the Bills side of things, it's been an up and down season here for Dawson Knox. After last season having a great season, scoring 9 touchdowns. So this week here, in the middle of the pack matchup versus a Cleveland Brown team, I got Dawson Knox as a borderline option. I wouldn't be surprised though if he could get 40, 50 yards and find the end zone. But right now, you got to limit what you think you're going to get from Dawson Knox, because this team spreads the ball out. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Singletary out of the backfield, James Cook as well. So a lot of options in this Bill offense. But right here, I have Knox as a borderline option. Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos. Foster Monroe now, he's the starting tight end over there. At least 3 more weeks. War on the injured reserve. And Foster Monroe finally had a breakout game last week. And this week here versus a pretty decent Denver Bronco defense, he's a tight end I'm just going to throw out there with the injuries of Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, and possibly Gerald Everett being out as well here. Foster Monroe's a guy you could put in your lineup and be confident that he possibly could put up top 12 fantasy numbers. And also, he's a guy that plays 95% or more of the snaps as well. Now to the Broncos, Greg Dulcich, he had an off game after the first 3 games of his NFL career. He had double-digit fantasy points. So this week here in a pretty decent matchup versus the Las Vegas Raiders, I got Dulcich as a borderline option. I think it was fluky last week that obviously he didn't do much in that ball game, but this week here, I think we could see him bounce back. I'm not going to throw him in the lineup 100%, but he's borderline. Now to the Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hayden Hurst, he's been a solid tight end this season, and with Jamar Chase most likely out again, more targets should be going Hayden Hurst's way. He's getting at least 8 to 10 fantasy points weekly as Hayden Hurst. The bye week is over now for the Cincinnati Bengals, which is always a plus for fantasy owners. And he's a guy, for the remainder of the season, I definitely could see be a top 12 tight end, and this week in a pretty good matchup with the Steelers. He's a start this week where he had double-digit fantasy points versus them in week 1. Now to the Steelers side of things, Pat Freiermuth, a great security blanket and playmaker at the tight end position for Kenny Pickett in the Steelers offense, and he's a guy that's easily going to crack my top 12 this week is smooth, and he's a start this week. Now Dallas Cowboys at Minnesota Vikings. At Dalton Schultz, it's been a tale of two tapes for him this season, with Cooper Rush, non-existent fantasy option, and now with Dak Prescott back in the lineup, and what we saw from last season, him and Prescott have a great rapport, and this guy's pretty much a double-digit PPR league, tight end each and every week, as long as Dak's obviously not injured and he's playing. So Schultz is a start this week. Last week with over 15 fantasy points. I don't know if he'll reach that mark this week here, but he's definitely a start. And TJ Hockenson fitting in well with his new ball club here over the first few weeks, and he's a start each and every week. He was great with the Detroit Lions, and now he's getting to the next level with Kirk Cousins and this Justin Jefferson-led offense over here in Minnesota. So he's definitely a start for me. Once again, is Hockenson. Now, Sunday Night Football, Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Chargers. So right now, Travis Kelce, the best tight end in pro football. That's not going to change at all. And he's a must start each and every week, and a penciled in starter for 20, 25 fantasy points. Now, Gerald Everett, as long as he plays in this game, he's a start. I know he's banged up and left the ball game versus San Francisco 49ers in week 10 was Gerald Everett. But right here with a pretty good matchup and in a game where they're going to have to pass a lot, I imagine, is this Charger team. As long as Everett's playing, he's a start. And then the final game of the week, San Francisco 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. George Kittle, it's been an up and down season here for him. And you notice this Niner team starting to use him a little more as a blocker, which ain't a great thing here for George Kittle. But this week here, I think he could be a top 5 tight end. This Arizona Cardinal defense isn't all that great, in my opinion here. And this ball game could be a mini shootout between these two teams. So right here, George Kittle, I'll give the nod to once again. And the rookie Trey McBride, I will sit this week here. I know McBride played a lot of snaps once Zach Ertz went out. And we know Zach Ertz, unfortunately, is out for the season. And he was a fantasy tight end that had 8 out of 10 ball games this season with double-digit fantasy points. And no people over there in Arizona have high hopes for Trey McBride, the rookie. But we got to see more out of him, obviously, before I could put him as a borderline option or a start. It's Week 11, start, sit, every matchup at the tight end position for Week 11 of the fantasy football season.